Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. And today I'm going to go over my review of SummerSlam 2011. Starting off the evening, we go to our first match of the night. It is Miz, R-Truth, and Alberto Del Rio versus Kofi Kingston, John Morrison, and Rey Mysterio. I thought this was a good opening matchup to start SummerSlam. Back and forth matchup between both teams with Kofi, Rey, and Morrison keeping the pace of the match. Morrison hits a springboard enziguri on R-Truth. Kofi then hits an SOS for a near fall. Rey then hits a 619 on R-Truth, and then Rey hits a frog splash off the top rope on R-Truth, pins him for the 3, and your winners of the match are Kofi Kingston, John Morrison, and Rey Mysterio. Hats off to Kofi Kingston, John Morrison, and Rey Mysterio for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night as well. It is Mark Henry versus Sheamus. I thought this was an okay matchup. Back and forth matchup between Mark Henry and Sheamus, with Henry keeping the pace of the match. Henry hits a devastating splash on Sheamus. Sheamus then hits a brogue kick, sending Mark Henry out of the ring. Henry then throws Sheamus through the barricade. Referee starts to count, ends up counting to 10, and your winner of the match by countout is Mark Henry. Hats off to Mark Henry for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night as well. It is for the Divas Championship. It is Kelly Kelly defending the Divas Championship against Beth Phoenix. I thought this was an okay matchup. Back and forth matchup between Kelly and Phoenix, with Phoenix keeping the pace of the match. But Kelly Kelly ultimately hits a roll-up on Beth Phoenix, pins her for the 3, and your winner of the match and still WWE Divas Champion is Kelly Kelly. Hats off to Kelly Kelly for getting the win in that matchup and retaining the Divas Championship. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Daniel Bryan versus Wade Barrett. I thought this was a really good matchup. Back and forth matchup between Bryan and Barrett, with Barrett keeping the pace of the match. Bryan then hits a running knee off the apron on Barrett. Bryan then hits a yes kick, I should say, on Wade Barrett. Bryan then applies a LeBell Lock, but Wade Barrett breaks the hold. Wade ultimately hits a wasteland on Daniel Bryan, pins him for the 3, and your winner of the match is Wade Barrett. Hats off to Wade Barrett for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Randy Orton versus Christian for the World Heavyweight Championship in a no-holds-barred match. This was a great match. Back and forth matchup between Orton and Christian, with Orton keeping the pace of the match. Orton hits a knee drop on Christian. Christian gets up, hits Orton with a kendo stick. Orton then hits an RKO on Christian through the announce table on the outside. Christian gets up, quickly hits a kill switch on Orton for a near fall. Orton then gets up, hits a power slam on Christian into the table. Orton then hits Christian with a kendo stick. Orton then hits a vintage DDT on Christian with a trash can. Orton then ultimately hits an RKO on Christian using the steel steps. Pins him for the 3. And your winner of the match, and at that time, new World Heavyweight Champion, is Randy Orton. After that, we go into our next match of the night. It's the main event of SummerSlam 2011. It is John Cena versus CM Punk for the WWE Championship with special guest referee Triple H. Number one, this was a historic matchup, man. I mean, two of the biggest rivals at the time. I mean, I totally believe that John Cena is CM Punk's one of his biggest rivals, in my honest opinion. This was a historic match to decide who was the undisputed world champion. CM Punk had a championship, as well as John Cena. The storyline leading up to this match was absolutely great. The match itself, it was a really great match. Back and forth matchup between Cena and Punk. Punk was keeping the pace of the match, with Punk ultimately hitting a GTS on John Cena. Pins him for the 3, and your winner of the match is CM Punk. After the match, though, you can see John Cena being upset about the match. And you look back on the replay, and you can see John Cena's leg actually touching the ropes as Triple H hits the 3 count for Punk to win this matchup. So the match kind of ended in a little bit of controversy, if you will, because John Cena's leg was on the ropes, and Triple H, I guess, supposedly didn't see it and gave CM Punk the win. But again, that was a historic match, man. I mean, to decide who was the undisputed world champion at that time, and like I said, John Cena was definitely CM Punk's one of his biggest rivals of all time. And the match definitely delivered. The Randy Orton versus Christian match for the World Heavyweight Championship in a no-holds-barred match. Absolutely phenomenal match from top to bottom. Edge even came out in that match to kind of talk to Christian. It was kind of, it seemed like he was more on Randy's side than he was Christian. Kind of said that Christian was pouting too much, about his World Heavyweight Championship win, and he won by disqualification, and he didn't, he didn't win the match clean to win the championship. The opening matchup with Miz R-Truth Del Rio versus Kingston, Morrison, and Rey Mysterio, it was a decent matchup. Mark Henry versus Sheamus was also a decent matchup. This was a time where Mark Henry had, the Hall of Pain, if you will. One of his best runs, I think, honestly, in his whole entire WWE career. So it was a decent match. Kelly versus Beth Phoenix for the Divas Championship was also a decent matchup in itself. But all in all, it was a decent event, man. I'm not going to sit here and say this was the best SummerSlam, but it damn sure was not the worst. If I had to give SummerSlam 2011 a solid rating from 1 out of 10, I'm probably going to give it a solid 5, man, at best. Like I said, wasn't the best SummerSlam, but it damn sure was not the worst. So I'm going to have to give SummerSlam 2011 a solid 5 at best. But this is my review of SummerSlam 2011. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.